having an entertainment quotient and being a little bit less dull and boring. And, I think images are certainly a very easy way to bring that entertainment gain.
Welcome to the 4 a.m. Report. Let's face it, we all have to market. Large or little, it's harder than ever to stand out in a cluttered space of one-size-fits-all and copycat marketing moves. Welcome to the 4 a.m. Report, a micro-podcast that brings you valuable conversations with people on the marketing dilemmas keeping them up at night. Here are your hosts, contrarian marketers and creative clutter cutters, Susan Diaz and Will Lamont.
Today on the 4 a.m. Report, we are going to talk some more about podcasting. Specifically, we're going to talk about how to go beyond just that lead image that you associate with your podcast. Hopefully, we'll give you some ideas on ways that you can further visually storytell around your podcast and also get people wanting to go listen. Susan, I'll throw it to you.
I like that. So we're going to cover off 3 specific points today. It's really developing the visual side of your podcasting brand. I think most people at this point who are already podcasters, they understand the process of getting a podcast out and the need for writing that's associated with it, such as, like your show notes and your blog posts and those things. So now let's take it to the next level, which is what is the sort of imagery that you're going to need? So that's something that I think you really have to, the first point is think beyond, like you said, Will, the cover art, right? And yes, of course, the podcasting hosting channels, which is whether it's going out on, what shall I say, Apple or Spotify, up top, there's an identifier. And I think most people get that part of it, right? And most of us have that. Mm-hmm. Number one, I think tactically, you want to be thinking a little bit about changing that up as well. Like don't put on one logo in the middle of it and then have that on for 5 years, because there's like a sort of, again, a blind spot that develops. So be sure that you're cycling through that. I know that some people do their podcasts in seasons, maybe every few seasons you change it up. So that's first. Change up your cover art itself. I think the second thing to think about is if you're doing your podcast weekly, you want at least 4 to 5 images for the month for your podcast. And this goes beyond just your cover art. This might need to be, you might need to get design support to get like this visualized. And like we said in the previous episode, 100% you can work with like stock images, which are relatively accessible these days. You could work with Canva and those sorts of things, but really thinking about what is going to go out each week and having that roster of images. We say that you should probably work with no less than 5 per month so that you're able to switch them around. And then if you're a super keener like us, and we're a marketing firm, so we have to do this caveat. I don't think everyone has to do this, but like if you're doing multiple releases in the course of the week, you need to be able to sort of mix and match. So that's the second point there, is be set up for at least 5 separate images to promote your podcast.
And one thing I would say too is think about how you're going to handle, like if you have guests coming on, think about how you're going to handle that. A lot of people will just, have a square template on the design where you insert, or a circle, you insert the guest. And some people throw up just the guest's headshot as one of the images in rotation as well, which work as well. So I totally agree with Susan that having images that work together, are themed together, that have that similar brand element to it, but swapping out the main point of the images or throwing on a filter, things like that, just to keep people not getting kind of, that white noise of the eye, basically.
Mm-hmm. And I think the third point, Will, of the tactical things under thinking beyond cover art is to think about what level of sort of resizing and finalizing you want to do with these images. So let's assume, like, if you on a simple level, if you're putting it on Instagram, you need it square, and if you're putting it at the top on your email, there's a good chance you need it rectangular, right? So it can get a little fussy, and you want to probably work with some sizes which are fairly simple. Like a square, I think, can work quite great because it works on things like LinkedIn and Facebook. Also works on, Instagram. So really think about how fussy you want to get with the resizing and how many places you're looking to put these images in. Like, I think as you get sophisticated with your podcast, you need to be probably thinking about using this in your pipeline. You need to be thinking about using this in your email marketing. So at that point, it's worth spending some time on figuring out all the sizes and keeping that ready. So I think that sort of covers off the first pillar of like visual branding for your podcast, which is really thinking beyond the cover art.
Right. Next, we wanted to talk about storytelling, using the visuals to storytell. We talked about this last week on the podcast when we were talking about the holy trinity of getting people hooked. We were saying that every 10, 20, 30 episodes, we kind of have a little regroup, brainstorm a new theme, which is really fun for us. We're creators, so we love coming up with a story behind the next several photos. We bring in our photographer, Melissa, trainer. We do a day of photo shoots, and then we've got a batch of photos that are themed together. Often we think we're funnier than maybe we actually are, but that's our vibe. We go for it. And then we get them all done up, and then we've got a whole slew of photos and images to use for the next few months until we decide we're tired of them and we want to introduce a new theme. And we like that because it does keep, I like that we keep refreshing it a lot, because again, a lot of people just like look at the visual and then click through or don't click through based on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, in our case, like we said, we like the part that we lean into from a brand perspective is our, like the podcast itself is obviously called the 4 a.m. report. And our sort of opening question or our hook is what keeps you up at night, which we've asked like over 100 people or whatever. And so we really, that's the positioning that we want sort of coming through in the podcasting. So really making sure that you're taking the time to do some visual storytelling to for people to be a little bit charmed, right? We talk about having an entertainment quotient and being a little bit less dull and boring. And, I think images are certainly a very easy way to be, to bring that entertainment game. And since this is your podcast and this is like a publishing tool, and there's a good chance there's a personal branding element to it because its hosts are individuals. So I think it's a chance to play with it, like have some fun, like lean all the way in and, like go further than your regular brand would probably let you go, is what I'm thinking.
I like that advice. And lastly, Susan, we're going to talk about, for visuals, keep your video on. It's funny because for the longest time we recorded without our video on, right? We just did the audio. Sometimes we pull audio clips. Then we started recording with video on, but in my head, I still forget that we're recording with video on, Susan. So you'll see me kind of like doing my own little thing sometimes. Jeremy, please don't pull clips where I'm looking ridiculous. But that's the easiest thing to do. If you're recording an audio, hit the video, make sure the video's on, and you can pull out these clips. People are really like, enjoying seeing little video clips, snippets, promo clips from podcasts. Also, you could take this whole podcast and throw it up on YouTube or whatever video platform you use, and it could live there as a visual version of your podcast.
Yes, I think that's a pretty key point. And I know that in some cases people can think like, oh, but video is really complicated and I don't have anyone who can help me with the video. And so, this is difficult, blah, blah, blah. But that said, just keep it on anyway. I mean, that you could even put a full uncut version onto YouTube, just upload it as it is. Mm-hmm. You may not have the impact you want from that, but it certainly is available for you to pull anything in the future. And I think it's important to think about content in a longer term as well. Much of podcasting tends to be evergreen content. And even if you can't use the video today in your current circumstances, you can come back and audit it next year and find a lot of like nuggets in here that can form material.
For sure. And when you're looking, if you are just starting out and you're looking for someone to edit your audio, we go pretty informal. We edit just a little bit. And I feel like I might sneeze. This could be an editing moment, Susan. Make sure when you're first, signing the contract with the audio person you're using, whoever you choose, that you do explore the idea of wanting audio clips or wanting some video clips from it, and lay that on the table first. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. Those are the 3 points in terms of like how to really focus on developing the visual podcasting brand. The first is really think beyond the cover art and get a little bit tactical on the kinds of things that need to happen to keep your podcast distributed fully. The second is visual storytelling. Think about what that podcast brand wants to bring to life in its visual form, and change it up often. And then the third is keep video on, because there's all kinds of ways in which you could utilize that video to visually break up your podcast assets.
Thank you, Susan. Talk to you later.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're losing sleep over a marketing-related problem, let us know. Drop us a line at cp.digital. Sweet dreams. Well, hopefully.